Story 1.
It's been nearly a year since it happened, and I still haven't processed it properly. I thought I had met my dream girl. She honestly came across as the sweetest and most innocent person, but she was living a double life right under my nose. We had been engaged for a few months and were very excited about starting our life together. We were quite young, in our 20s. I was working my butt off in 2 jobs to get us set up financially. She had a job, but it was a small salary, and she was still studying on the side. I was extremely committed and wanted to give us a good life. We were trying to live a healthier lifestyle together by eating better and exercising regularly. The topic of getting a gym membership then came up. We discussed each getting memberships so we could go to the gym together. Anyway, then one day she told me out of the blue that she had signed herself up at a different gym instead of the original one we planned on going to. I didn't think much of it and didn't mind. I thought it was a bit weird, but I was happy to gym alone at the original one. Her new gym was too far away from where I lived, we weren't living together. So, a little while goes by, about a week. She's gone to the gym a few times. I've been nice, asked if she's enjoying it, etc. All seems okay, but she starts acting a bit weird. She is being distant and snappy, and I don't know why. A few days pass and it just gets worse. She starts becoming extremely aggressive towards me for no reason and wouldn't open up. This started to give me a very suspicious feeling, and I wanted to figure out what was going on. So, I did some digging and remembered that she logged in onto her Instagram a while ago on my computer. I checked and thankfully still had access to her account, but what I found was horrifying. I found a long chat between her and a guy who worked at the gym. The chat spanned over a week or so and started fairly casual, like, "Thanks for helping me sign up," etc., but then it got very sexual very quickly. I had to read about the things they wanted to do to each other and then the things they did do to each other. And guess where they hooked up? In the gym's office. I was disgusted, shocked, and literally sick to my stomach. I phoned her immediately and told her what I found and that it was over. She first denied it, but when she realized I saw the chat, she just hung up on me. Also, I don't mean this in a nasty way, but the guy she hooked up with was really not a typically attractive guy. I'm a good-looking guy. Tall, green eyes, dark hair, and toned. She went for a slob over me, and I can't understand why. I then phoned her parents to tell them what happened. At first they said, "That's impossible. She's nothing like that." I then sent them the chat. After they took a while processing it, they tried to shift blame onto me. They said I neglected her and was too busy with work. I was working hard to provide for her. She never took accountability and never even apologized to me. Haven't spoken to her since. It feels traumatic.
My opinion. I think in this case you can escalate it by contacting the gym and providing them with information about what happened between their employee and client. It is against the policy of most gyms, so you may have him fired for this. Anyway, you're better off without her. Especially if her parents are for her despite all the evidence you provided and trying to gaslight you. That sounds not good to me. Understandable, but not good. Story 2.
Backstory. Jay had been the general manager of our tire company since he got the previous GM fired in 2004. He is a complete narcissist who believed he could do no wrong, and if you didn't agree with him, God help you. Over the years, Jay had done a number of illegal things. For example, he was always very physical with his employees. One time, he was wrestling with another salesman. This was commonplace and unavoidable if you valued your job, and the salesman, we'll call him Paul, took a bad fall and broke his knee. In order to avoid the ire of the owner, we'll call him Lou, Jay immediately clocked Paul out and told him to go to the hospital. He also told Paul to use his own insurance, and that the company would pay the deductible in order to avoid a messy workers' comp claim. Paul did as he was told and kept his job, but his knee was never the same and he ended up addicted to opioids thanks to Jay's actions. Jay also had an affinity for the ladies. Now I must mention here that Jay is an ultra-conservative Christian father of 11 children, who believes that a woman's place is uneducated, barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen. That being said, several female receptionists came and went over the years, with only Ruth sticking around because she needed the money and begrudgingly accepted the regular sexual harassment. When he wasn't behaving inappropriately with every lady that walked in the door, he was behaving inappropriately with every other employee. Want to leave early on a slow day? Wrestle the biggest guy in the shop for it. Jay was big on wrestling. I suspected Jay may also have been wrestling with his daughters, but couldn't prove it. The guy was a real creep. Big guy isn't in that day? Buy him a pizza. Trying to have lunch? Expect Jay to throw food at you. Want to schedule a vacation? Tough. He'll let you know the week before if you can take it. He was a complete child, and I put up with him for 6 long years because I couldn't let him win. The setting? It was the summer of 2012, and Ruth and I had had enough. Jay was completely out of control as usual, now telling me, a Latino, that if Obama won re-election, that he would make my work life hell come November. Ruth was going through a divorce, and he was trying to move in on her. For the record, Ruth hated Jay's guts. It was time to hit him where it hurt. Ruth was ready to drop a lawsuit for sexual harassment on Jay and the company, and I was ready to drop one for constructive discharge. Now suing an employer doesn't exactly look good on one's CV, but we were both at wit's end. The revenge. Ruth and I decided, one evening, that Jay's ultra-conservative values must be shared by his wife and family. As he was always working, his wife must be the one who goes to the mailbox every day. I created a throwaway email and got him a Bill Me Later subscription to Hustler magazine and Playboy and Penthouse. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and he comes in looking like death warmed over. Turns out, Mrs. Jay didn't appreciate his new taste in reading material, and he's now living in a motel in the next town over. Now he's not saying that his wife kicked him out, he's far too much a narcissist for that, but I could put 2 and 2 together. He's decided that he's done with his wife and 11 children, and that he is going to start a new life with Ruth. After all, her divorce is going to be finalized at the end of the week. It was at this point that Lou's sister, co-owner of our company and not a big fan of Jay, we'll call her Liz, overheard him talking to Ruth in a less than business appropriate manner. Liz later took Ruth aside and got the straight poop on what had been happening for the last several years, and that was that. The next morning, Lou called Jay to his office and was far kinder than I would have been. Jay was to lose his title of GM and go to work in another location an hour away until the end of the year. In January of 2013, Jay would need to find other employment. Jay was also not to contact the location that he had overseen and worked in for years. Also, the location that Jay was relocated to added an hour to his already hour-long commute. I suspect that Lou also encouraged Jay to reconcile with his wife, which Jay did. Epilogue. Jay ended his employment with our company in January 2013, and never suspected any involvement from me. In fact, to this day, he stays in occasional contact with me. He went on to work for another tire store, this one a corporate chain, as a store manager. Put his house on the market, bought a new one closer to his new employer and everything. A year later he was fired after bringing a 7-figure lawsuit against them. They settled out of court, and he moved back to the house he was in before, as it hadn't sold. Jay's next job was 5 minutes from his home, and his new boss was the guy that Jay had gotten fired back in 2004. That one lasted a couple of years, until Jay gave up on finding employment in the area and moved himself and the whole family to the Midwest sometime around 2016. Now in the Midwest, Jay has been unable to keep a job in the car business for more than a year, and as soon as each of his kids turns 18, they seem to move right back to the area they grew up in. His New England home sold in 2019 for less than he bought it for. Ruth still works for the company and is very happy there now. The icing on the cake, in early 2021, I finally left my job at the company, sold my house, and became a full-time RVER. I've seen 47 US states, including the Midwestern state and town that Jay now resides in. I looked him up when I got there, and he came to see me after he got out of work in my new RV. He said, "Boy, you must really think something of me to look me up and want to see me all the way out here, if he only knew the half of it."
My opinion. Signing your boss to the 18+ magazines sound like quite an easy blow to collapse this house of cards. Set off the chain reaction that destroyed his career. I hope all his kids will be fine anyway, no matter how bad their father is. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe on my channel.